Welcome everyone to HGA's first Fiber-A-Thon. I'm Elizabeth Williamson and I am the Executive Director for the Handweavers Guild of America. And I am so excited to have you here with us for this program. We've never done this before, so we really don't know what to expect or how it's going to go. Um, there's just It was just an idea that we had, because to be quite honest and transparent, we were short a little. We were seeing that our donations were coming down. So if you are a member of our organization or supporter, if you're on our mailing list, you received an email from me last month that was talking about where we are as an organization. And I mentioned that our donations are lower, which is typical. We started noticing our donations were dropping in August. And then it was very small, so it wasn't very worrying, but it kept increasing. And that's not necessarily uncommon in an election year. It's also not uncommon for us because we see a big ramp up of donations before convergence, and that was after convergence. But membership have dropped too. And I know that there's a lot of concern about the economy and such. And so, it could be there's a variety of reasons, but I like to be proactive and try to get ahead of things. And so when the board and I were discussing how can we raise funds, we came up with this idea of a Fiber-A-Thon, sort of like a telethon, only online and all about fiber. And it's a way to highlight the community and the work that we do. Um, a conversation I've had with our staff is what would happen? What would the world be like if HGA did not exist? And we're not in that place. We are solvent. We're fine, and we'll survive through this. We're strong. But I think it's something to consider because if all of a sudden our members said, "Well, we don't see value in the program that you offer," or said, "We're not, stopped donating," then we need to question, are we still, what would that impact be? Um, if you're a member and you participate in our programming, if you love, watch Textiles and Tea every week or catch the recordings, there would be that loss of information. Textiles and Tea in itself is so valuable because we're capturing these conversations and these moments in time with presenters, or excuse me, fiber artists. And sometimes some of the people we wanted to bring on are no longer with us. And I've discovered these artists. I'm like, oh, wow. Could you imagine if had thought to reach out to them 4 years ago when we started the program? And now that time has passed. So we're really preserving this artistic vision that so many artists have and exposing people to new artists, to experienced artists. And what would happen if that wasn't here anymore? If we didn't have convergence anymore, what would be the impact of that? If we didn't produce Shuttle Spindle and Die Pot, our magazine. Now I know our magazine has people have various opinions of our magazine. I know some of you love handwoven because it has the recipes, but our magazine not only is a sense of a way to bring together our fiber art community and what is happening in this place. It supports exhibits by sharing that information with you. It supports artists by sharing their stories. It supports small businesses by being able to let you know that they exist and that they're out there. If we didn't have that magazine, there would be one less way for our small fiber art businesses to let you know about their products. And the internet is great, but the internet is overwhelming and there's so much information out there. And I don't know about you, but for me, I still love direct mail. If I get something that I want to remember, I'll stick it up on the refrigerator or put it somewhere where I'll see it. I do read those things, and so it's important. So we think about, if HGA didn't exist, the fiber art community would still be here. But would it feel like something is missing? And when I think about that, I think it would. I think what we really provide is that sense of community. And that's what we're here to do today, is to provide to you a sense of community, to highlight stories. We have, I think, about 50 presenters that are going to present over the next 12 hours. It's really going to be a marathon. If you can watch, great. If you can donate, great. If you can share it, wonderful. We're broadcasting live on Facebook. This is also going to be recorded and uploaded to YouTube. And, I don't expect you to stick with us for the entire 12 hours, but jump in, on occasion if you'd like to. Use our chat if you want to share something, share a message. Um, I just noticed that nobody can use it right now, so I'm going to just update that. We're going to be monitoring our social media. Call the office, make a donation. If you'd like to donate, call 678-730-0010, or you can visit our website and donate online at weavespindie.org. Okay, so it is almost time to start to introduce our first guest. But before I do want to share with you just one little thing of where we are with our schedule and our goals for today. So if you go to our website under programs, you'll find Fiber-A-Thon, or you can also go here to ways to give and you'll find it as well. And when you do that, you will see the option to view our entire schedule for today. And there may be some changes along the way. We know we had a couple people had 1% internet issues. We've had to change that, but you'll find our schedule there. There's also the link if you want to watch on Zoom, where you can put messages in our chat there. We have a couple open spots if you think you want to add a presentation. If you want to offer, like maybe you're a business and you want to offer a discount to someone who donates today. Macedo Mini Acres is doing that, and I'll share more about that later, but they're offering a discount to everybody who donates today. If you are a business and you would like to do that to support us in that manner, call the office and they will help you. And then if you'd like to give to the campaign, here's where you do that. And as the day goes by, you can see where our numbers are. And we're really thankful for those who started us off here. We have a large goal, and that goal is, I don't know if it's achievable, but maybe it is. We're down on donations by about $26,000, and our fiscal year ends on March 31st. So we have about 5 days to earn that revenue, or we're going to be less than where we were before. And membership is down about $36. So altogether, our revenue this year is down about $70,000. And $70,000 for us goes a long way. We are very much bare bones now that we have a remote staff. So if you can give today, please do. Again, you can give on the website here by clicking donate, or you can call our office at 678-730-0010. And we will update you on where we are throughout the day. Okay, with that said, I would like to introduce our first guest, Anthony DiRenzo. And Anthony is going to give us a presentation today. He's going to speak about a Montessori approach to fiber arts. So Anthony, if you want to go ahead and start your camera. Thank you for being here with us today and for helping us support this movement. We're so excited to hear from you.
Sorry, good morning or good afternoon now. I was so excited for this opportunity when I was going through my emails this morning to make sure I had everything ready. I noticed an email from HGA that it was time to renew my membership. So I renewed this morning for 2 more years as an individual member. So I was glad to also have that reminder because I really love when Shuttle Spindle Die Pot arrives in my mailbox. I kind of cancel my plans and I get ready to go home and read it cover to cover so that I can be inspired. But also, I'm also the editor of the New York Handweavers Guild, so I try to also look out for any of our folks who are in there, so I can give them a shout out in our newsletter. So it's a pleasure and a little bit of work when that arrives. So a Montessori approach to weaving. In addition to a fiber artist, I am a Montessori middle school teacher in Brooklyn, New York. And going through and becoming a Montessori teacher really changed my life in the way that I think about my approach to not just teaching, but everything. So I wanted to talk a little bit about what it means to have a Montessori approach to my crafting. Um, so Maria Montessori was an Italian educator who really revolutionized our approach to educating children by realizing that everything in the universe is like connected to everything else. Um, and she also believed in a strongly prepared teacher and a strongly prepared environment. So when I keep my studio at home, I think about the prepared environment and I make sure that everything that I bring into my studio has a place that I know where it's going to go. And that place is accessible, that it's labeled, and that it makes sense. So I have all of my weaving tools together on a pegboard. I have all of my spinning tools in a cart together. Everything is easily accessible. Everything's visible so that I don't forget that it's there because I think I've had less successful setups in my studios where that skein of yarn or that cone of yarn just goes unnoticed for years and years, and then you pull it out and you think, "Gosh, I remember this. I wish I had I had remembered this when I was working on a project." Um, Thinking about myself as the prepared weaver, I think that I find a lot of value in sort of developing myself as a craft person. I think at my job, I do so much professional development to make sure that I am the greatest teacher I can be. And I also take that approach to weaving. And so I find opportunities throughout the year to make sure that I am developing myself as a weaver and staying current with, what folks are doing and also learning from others, because I think I'll get more into learning from others in a moment. And another aspect of Montessori philosophy that I incorporate into my work is the power of self-reflection. I think when I first started out as a fiber artist, I would get so down on myself that what I was making didn't look like the pieces that I was so inspired by other artists making. And I really had to shift my mindset and to think that it's not about whether or not my piece is good or bad. It's about what I'm proud of in that piece and what I learned from in that piece. So now when I finish spinning a yarn or weaving a blanket or knitting a sweater or embroidering a wall hanging, I think to myself, what is it that I'm really proud of in this piece? And what is it that I would do differently next time? And I apply that thinking to all of my work. And I find myself not getting discouraged to the point that I am unable to keep creating. I think, early on when I would make some mistakes and I would focus on them, I would get really, really down about what I wanted to make next because I would feel like I wasn't good enough. But I think shifting this idea from like self-criticism to self-reflection that I learned through my Montessori training has really helped me blossom as an artist. Um, the sort of aspect of Montessori philosophy that I find most powerful in my approach to fiber arts is the idea of cosmic education. Maria Montessori was an Italian national when she was traveling around Asia. So she was in India when World War II broke out. She ended up under house arrest and living in India for many years. Um, During that time, she was able to connect with a lot of spiritual practices from India, and sort of with her own Catholic upbringing, kind of like mesh them together to come up with this idea of cosmic education, which is that sort of everything's connected and everything can be traced back to the Big Bang. Um, and so, one of the things that I find really soothing when I'm sitting on the loom is that I am the universe putting itself in order. So, you think about all of the chaos that's out there. And I even think about the chaos of like the fibers in my hands when I'm spinning, or just the chaos of the sort of piles of yarn next to my loom. But sitting at the loom or sitting at the spinning wheel, I am literally putting things in order. I am adding order to the chaos that is the universe. And that is how I've found kind of a spiritual connection to my practice. Another aspect of cosmic education is the idea of timelines. So we teach the students all about different ways to think about time. So they learn the history of the universe, which starts with the Big Bang, goes all the way through the creation of um, the planets and the stars. And then we also look at the history of the Earth, and they think about sort of the geological history of the Earth all the way up until life began. And then the story of life, thinking about, those first single-celled organisms all the way up to the birth of humans. And then they look at the history of humans. So they're really thinking about their place, not just in this school in this year, but they're thinking about their place in this whole timeline that we have of not just human history or global history, but truly time itself. Um, and so when I think about the way we teach our students that, I think about who I am as a weaver. And I'm not just a weaver who exists in Brooklyn in a vacuum, but I'm really part of a long storied history of people throughout time and across borders who have shared this knowledge to to share the idea and build off one another's ideas. So I am not just a weaver in my studio. I am actually part of the story of human creation of textiles. And so I am connected to all of these fabulous weavers that we know, people like Annie Albers, and people like William Morris, but I'm also connected to people whose names we don't know. You know, all of my great grandparents came over from Ireland and Italy, and I like feel it in my genes that I definitely have some connection to the fiber work that they must have been doing. Um, so it's really, and then I think about the responsibility of like who's going to come after me and who I'm going to teach the fiber arts to in the future, and teaching my students fiber arts. And you know, I have a classroom set of rigid heddle looms at school, and I teach my students how to do these crafts as well. Um, and it really it's sort of empowering to think about myself as like a part of this much bigger thing than myself. And then the last point I will make is that the sort of language we use in the classroom with our students is that um, we oftentimes use the name of what we're studying with our students. So, you know, in science class, they're called scientists, not students. In I teach Spanish as well, so I refer to them as linguists or Spanish speakers rather than students. And so I think when I applied that to my own life, and when I truly started to think of myself as artist, and when I started to think of myself as weaver, and I started to think of myself as spinner, that it really helped me feel more confident, sort of to take risks and be more creative in what I'm making. And I truly attribute that to my time as a Montessori teacher and my time in Montessori training. And just again, to underscore the point of why we're all here today, to think about ourselves as not just weavers in our own private studios, but as part of something bigger. I think, you know, the Hand Weavers Guild of America has provided such a wonderful forum for folks to connect and really to continue telling the story of American fiber arts. And that's what I have for you today.
Anthony, thank you so much for that. That was wonderful. And thank you for renewing your membership. We greatly appreciate that. I want to share that Gigi Matthews mentioned that she's a fellow New York Guild member, and she said she's donating $50 right now in appreciation of you presenting to our HGA community. So thank you, Gigi, and thank you, Anthony. So again, if you would like to donate, you can do that by calling 678-730-0010 or donate online on our website, which is weavespendie.org. And just to share with you that information here, it is available, and that's how you donate. So everything you do today is going to help us raise some money for our programs. And like I mentioned, we've got a wonderful schedule. Our next presenter is going to be here in just about 6 minutes. But you know, there's still actually a couple time slots too, if you'd like to sign up. So we do have a couple evening time slots. So please consider donating. And I'd like to share with you just a little bit of information about where the money where we receive our money. We actually receive our funding, most of it, from Convergence. Convergence represents 53% of our revenue. And so Convergence is very important to us. It's to make sure that it's successful. That is our Fiber Art Conference that we offer every other year. And if we have not made a big announcement, but there have been some small ones that if you're paying attention, we are planning to go to New Orleans in 2026. And we'll share some more information with you about that as the day goes on. We are still negotiating the contract. Our contract negotiations take a significant amount of time because we want to get the best deal that we can for our membership. We want to make sure that the organization is protected, that if for some reason that we had to cancel the conference or something were to happen, that we are being good stewards of your dollars. And so there's a lot of work that goes into negotiating the contract. But membership is a big part of it too. We could receive 25% of our revenue from memberships. So those memberships matter. It helps cover the amount that you spend on your membership pretty much covers our cost to produce the magazine. Everything else is extra. And then we bring in some money from advertising, just 8%. Our programs, besides Convergence, Spinning and Weaving Week, what else? Small Expressions, they actually only bring in 2% of our revenue. And then our donations, those make up 12%, which is a very small amount for an organization such as ours. So that's where our revenue comes in, is from those areas. Okay, so again, we're about to bring on Dorothy here in just a minute, but we've got a little bit of time. So I'm going to share with you just some more information about HGA. We normally will only have about 2 minutes between each presenter, but being that this is the first hour, we have a little bit of extra information. So just a moment here. If you are just tuning in, you can go to our website and you can see the full schedule for the day. That's going to be here under programs or ways to give. You'll go down to Fiber-A-Thon, and then you will see this in blue, and you just click on it and it presents the entire schedule. So you can see everybody who is signed up for today. We could not do this program without all these wonderful presenters. There's so many people that's going to present to you today and share their stories. And we were just blown away by all of you who stepped up to volunteer. This would not be a successful event without you, because you do not want to hear 12 hours of me and my staff and the board talking about HGA and why it matters to us, which we would do, but you really don't want to hear that. You probably would have signed off by now. Couple of things to share with you about HGA, the little things that you may not be aware of, is that we offer scholarships to students. So we always hear about how do we get younger people involved. And one of the ways we do that is we have a scholarship program. We actually have 2 scholarships that we offer. One is the Dendell Scholarship, which is in memory of Gerald and Esther Dendell. And then we also have the HGA Scholarship. And when students receive a scholarship, they also receive a complimentary membership to HGA. And it's been amazing to see how this introduction can bring people into our organization. One of our members, or actually our board members, Erin Miller, has received a scholarship. She also then went on to be an intern at Convergence. She's entered, I believe she was a grant recipient maybe too. She's had all kinds of different ways that she's been involved, and it started with a scholarship. So, your donations help support this program, and that helps bring in younger people. So thank you for donating. Thank you for helping us support this program. If you know someone who is going to be in a fiber art program at a university, encourage them to apply for our scholarships every year. We just wrapped up the most recent deadline, and we'll be notifying our scholarship recipients here in the next month, once the board approves the panel's recommendation. But the next deadline will be May 1st. So if you know May 1st of next year, let me back up there. So we're moving back the deadline, and it'll be May 1st of 2026. And that application will open up in the fall. So if you know anyone who might be interested in a scholarship, please encourage them to apply. Okay, that's enough about HGA at the moment. Let's get back into our program. Our next guest is, get back to my schedule. Our next guest is Dorothy Bailey, and Dorothy Bailey is going to give us a brief history of Catskill Merino Farm and explain why their wool is so special. So Dorothy, thank you for being here. If you want to go ahead and start your camera. We're so excited to hear what you have to say.
Hello, can everyone hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Amazing. So yeah, my name is Dorothy. I am a NYU student, but I also work for Catskill Merino. I work at the Union Square Green Market, where we sell our wool every Saturday. But I'm going to tell you a little bit about our farm and why it means a lot to me and why it is so special. So Catskill Merino we're currently located in Warwick, New York, and we sell fine merino wool at Union Square Green Market in the Grand Army Plaza Green Market every Saturday. We also have a website, so we sell our wool online at catskillmerino.com. So the farm was started by a man named Eugene in 1987 in Sullivan County, New York, and his goal was to produce the finest wool that could be found in America. In 1990, Eugene flew to Australia and imported 5 superfine merino lambs, and today's flock are all descendants of these 5 lambs. And today the farm is run by a woman named Dominique. Dominique met Eugene in 2006 at a farmer's market where she was selling vegetables that she grew in her garden. And Eugene invited her to visit the farm, and Dominique slowly started working with him more and more until she became an equal partner at the farm. And Dominique quickly became attached to the sheep. Eugene kind of discouraged attachment to the sheep, but she couldn't help it, and she started naming each sheep and stopped referring to them by their ear tag numbers. And she also used to have to take the summers off because after helping deliver the lambs in the spring, she would get too attached and it was too hard watching any lambs that might die over the summer. So Dominique has since the start always cared deeply for sheep, and for the sheep that she cared for. She never, before working with Eugene, had any involvement with sheep. She just loved animals, so she grasped the opportunity to work with any sort of animal. And when Eugene suddenly died in 2018, Dominique made the difficult choice to continue caring for the sheep and running the farm alone. It was a tough undertaking and a stressful transition, but she loved the sheep so much that she knew she had to continue the farm. And she also said, "It was a dream job that I was born to do. They change your life and are always on your mind." And Dominique couldn't be here today to speak actually because she's in the middle of lambing season. So she's busy taking care of all of the newborn lambs. That is why I'm here representing the farm. And I first encountered Catskill Merino at the Union Square Farmers Market, which was nearby to my freshman year dorm at NYU. And I was looking for a job, and as an avid knitter, I thought it would be a good fit. So I emailed Dominique, but at the time she wasn't hiring anyone. And then I emailed again a few months later, and luckily this time she was hiring. And Dominique said she appreciated my persistence, and her dog's middle name was also Dorothy, so she hired me, which I'm very grateful for. And working at the farmers market has been a wonderful experience for me. Most of the people just stop by to touch the yarn and admire all the bright colors, but we also have a cast of regulars who stock up on yarn for their knitting and weaving projects every few weeks. Everyone who comes by mentions their appreciation for the craftsmanship that goes into each skein of yarn. So now I'll tell you a little bit about how the yarn is actually grown and produced. So Dominique now has a flock of around 250 sheep, and they get sheared once a year. After shearing, the yarn is sent to a facility in Texas to be scoured and carded. So I actually have some of our wool. I have some, let's see, I have some unscoured yarn or fleece right now. So this is how it comes off the sheep after they are sheared. And then I also have some carded fleece to show you. We have it right here. As you can see, it's been brushed out, so you can't really see the locks as clearly anymore. I'll show you both of them here. And we also sell carded fleece at the farmer's market. So for spinners, you can buy this and spin it into your own yarn. And so then the yarn is sent to a spinnery in Vermont. It's called Green Mountain Spinnery. And then the finished skeins are sent back to the farm where Dominique dyes it by hand. I also have a skein here, so you can see this is our undyed yarn. This is the super bulky weight, so you can see it here if you want. Yeah. Then I also have a swatch that I knit up of, this is our worsted weight, so you can kind of just see the fabric that it makes. So yeah, Dominique dyes everything by hand. She uses mostly citric acid dyes, but we also have a selection of natural dyed yarn. She uses things like black walnut and indigo. So we also have those at the farmers market. And this year I actually had the opportunity to help with shearing back at the end of February. This is the first year Dominique has done shearing in 2 batches. So in February, she was shearing the pregnant ewes, so I got to help with that. My boyfriend and I drove up to Warwick, and our job was to help with scouring the fleeces. So a little bit how shearing works. So the sheep are all of the sheep that are going to be sheared on the specific day are in specific pens, and then they are moved from each pen into a chute where 2 large men who are friends of the farm. These are not professionals. They were just both volunteers, big strong men who wanted to help. They would grab the sheep one by one and flip them onto their backs, and then they were handed to the 2 professional shearers who came. These are 2 local shearers. They travel between farms during shearing season. And then the fleeces were removed. And then someone would pick up the fleece from the ground and toss it onto the scouring table, where me, my boyfriend, Dominique, and her sister picked out hay, dirt, and tangles from the fleece. Then the scoured fleeces were placed into large plastic bags and sent to Texas for carding. So shearing I found was a mechanic yet very personal experience. Everyone clearly knew their job. I was new to this. I had never scoured anything before. So was my boyfriend. These 2 men did not do this before. So they were kind of learning on the job. But even so, it was like very efficient. We all knew what our job was, and everyone, you could tell, like really stepped on board and hopped into their role very quickly. And it was, yeah, still very personal. Dominique would say each sheep as they came, she would say their name and tell everyone a little bit about each sheep. So you could just tell so clearly how she really has a connection with each sheep. So yeah, so my final thoughts, I guess, are getting to know Dominique and learning about how our wool is made has really grown my appreciation. I love to knit. I love to knit with our yarn, and really getting to learn about the process of how it comes from a sheep to the wool then we get to knit has been wonderful. And it's also getting to know Dominique. It's so clear how much she loves her job and loves the sheep she cares for. She just it's so obvious how much she loves them, and it's been really wonderful to see that. So next time you're in New York, or if you are local, please stop by one of our markets. We are at the Union Square Green Market and the Grand Army Plaza Green Market every Saturday from around 8 to 5, and you can check out our yarn. And if you want to learn more about our farm, you can read a book by Clara Parks. It's called Vanishing Fleece. She tells a little bit more about the story of our farm, and shows a little bit more about how it's made. And yeah, that's all I have for you. Thank you so much for listening, and enjoy the rest of the day.
Dorothy, that's wonderful. Thanks for sharing that. Now I have a question for you.
Yes.
With this experience, what are your career aspirations? Where do you think that's gonna lead you?
Yeah, so I'm actually studying journalism at NYU. I had no plans to kind of pursue textiles before I applied to college, but since like getting to know how all of this, and the more that I become passionate about knitting, I have definitely decided I want to continue pursuing textiles. I think though my dream is sort of like costume studies. So it's a little bit different, but I think from working with the farm and seeing just like each step in the process of how our clothing gets made has made me just very interested in that. And I'd like to, yeah, continue learning about that. And hopefully, I think the end goal would be maybe to work in like conservation or kind of curation of clothing exhibits or something like that. So, yeah.
Okay, so you should look into our volunteer opportunities because with Convergence next year, well, first of all, as a student, you could apply to be an intern. But then
Hmm.
also, they're looking for volunteers to help with exhibits, particularly Mandy, our program coordinator, looks for different people to help her specifically with a exhibit, so from the beginning to the end of the process, even before we get there. And with
Hmm.
that opportunity, you could actually apply specifically for our wearable art, which
That
ties
would
in
be
with
amazing.
your interests are. So I hope you look into that. And I want
Yeah.
to While you're here, David Hustis commented that as a new spinner, he said, I have had the pleasure of spinning Catskill Merino wool. It is
Oh, that's
wonderful.
amazing.
Yeah, so Dorothy, thank you for sharing your story with us. That was wonderful, and we
Thank
appreciate
you. I
our.
appreciate it. Alrighty,
Okay,
bye-bye.
have a good day. So for we do you an update quick on where we are with our funding. I just hit on it not too long ago, and let me give you an update here. If I looks like my internet is unstable, so that's unusual, but we'll get through it. So we have actually seen an increase already of our donations. We're up to $1,221. So thank you for all of you who are donating and helping support this program. You can donate by calling 678-730-0010 or go to our website, weavespendie.org, and you can actually just you can do weavespendie.org/Fiber-A-Thon, or just go to ways to give, and under there you'll see our Fiber-A-Thon, or even easier, click the donate button. But thank you to everyone who is supporting our goals so far. Okay, so next up is Denise Kovnat. Denise, I hope I said your name right. I feel like I apologize if I said it wrong, but if you want to go ahead and start your camera, Denise is going to honor her mentor, Joyce Fisher Robarts, and give a brief presentation of her contributions to the weaving. And thank you so much for that, Denise, and welcome.
Yeah, thank you. And should I start, Elizabeth?
Go ahead and start.
Okay, well, this is going to be, a lot of it I wrote down because, to extemporize about history is a little bit difficult, but I want to say greetings to everyone here watching, and thanks also to HGA for all the good work they've done in setting up this Fiber-A-Thon. I think it's a worthy endeavor. I want to point out that I have already made my donation to HGA, and I urge you to do so as well. This organization, in my humble opinion, ranks as the linchpin in many ways worldwide for all things weaving, certainly on this continent. And I know there are wonderful weavers globally, but for North America in general, we're very, very lucky to have such a well-organized group. So this talk is my way to give back, to help support an organization that helps weavers everywhere. And in so many ways, we are, as we know, part of a large, wide-ranging community. I'm here to tell you how HGA has helped my guild and me specifically. I'm going to begin with my mentor. I call her my weaving mother, but she would have had to have me when she was 15 years old, so that's not quite fair. She is Joyce Fisher Robarts, very well-known weaver nationally and certainly in New York State. She is the lead teacher and founder of the Weaving and Fiber Arts Center in Rochester, New York, which is the outreach arm of the Weavers Guild of Rochester, and a very, very successful endeavor it has been for the past now 23 years, since 2002. We started out in a tiny one-room studio, and as only weavers can do, it was excuse me, excuse me, excuse me. We had, a couple inches between everybody to move about as we were weaving and getting our yarns and fixing our looms and whatever we were doing. And then all of a sudden, okay, we have enough money. It's sort of like if you build it, they will come. We had enough money coming in to rent another room. And then we had another room. And finally we had another, and then we moved to a storefront and with parking. And the parking and the storefront expanded our endeavors immensely, and we've been there ever since. So I'll show you some pictures right now of our weaving center. Am I allowed to share here, Liz? I hope. Oh, look.
Yes,
Okay,
you may share, Denise.
this is from the Weavers Guild of Rochester website. This is our storefront, Weaving and Fiber Arts Center. It's located in the Piano Works Mall in East Rochester, New York. And it has we used to call it the Golden Triangle. It has a beading store. It did have, if it doesn't still, an embroidery arts store. It had a knitting store. Things have changed somewhat. Our studio space is very large. This is just the front room. The back room is used for other classes, dyeing, that sort of thing. And we teach an enormous range of classes. So let's get back to my screen here, and I'm going to stop sharing. Okay, let's go back to Joyce. As I say, the lead teacher and the founder. She won't take credit for it. There was a team who helped her, but if it weren't for her pushing, we would not have the Weaving and Fiber Arts Center. She trained in art and textiles at Rochester Institute of Technology. She taught art in the local schools, and then she came to the realization that more than anything, weaving was her calling, and she wanted to teach and she wanted to sell, and that's all she wanted to do, and we're lucky for that. This was her calling. She's been at it for decades. So I want to talk about my coming to weaving moment. So let's talk about the year 1977, before many of you were born. I was taking a photography class at our local museum in Rochester. And I happened upon the weaving studio. It was a large plate glass window, and you could look in and see all these wonderful looms and spinning wheels. There was a big, big walking wheel. And I looked in and said to myself, I'm going to learn how to weave one day. You know, I was already a knitter, as with most of us, crocheter. But I saw these wooden machines, and I was fascinated by them. And I thought, I want to make these machines work for me. Mental note kind of thing. Didn't think any more about it. That the day came 2 decades later when I quit work. I had 2 teenagers at home, and realized it was better raising teenagers from home than from work. That's aside. Joyce was my first teacher. I might not have even continued weaving if it weren't for Joyce, because of her flexibility. Try it. See if you can do it. Which project do you want to work with? Oh, if you wind a warp that way, it might not work this way, but if it works for you, you know, she had her rules, fortunately, but she also works with people. So she was my first teacher. Her gifts as a teacher, plus that introduction to the magical combination of yarn, shuttle, and shafts in action, grabbed me and urged me to learn as much as I could about our wonderful craft. I studied with Joyce for 4.5 years straight. And she remains a dear friend and always a teacher to me. Soon after I started weaving, I joined the Weavers Guild of Rochester, and I felt like I'd found my tribe. That was 27 years ago, and weaving has been an important part of my life ever since. So what does this personal story have to do with the Hand Weavers Guild of America? In part because HGA has been important to Joyce. And she has been important to HGA in turn. Back in the 1970s, before computers, Joyce, Betty Turlau, and Ruth Holroyd, all master weavers, many of you may have heard of at least one of them, formed the committee that put together slideshows to be shared with member guilds for programs. That was one of the ways we were able to teach nationwide. And let's see. Joyce also has been a member of HGA as long as she has been weaving. There are hundreds of weavers that she has trained and encouraged to them to join as well, which they have, and gone to Convergence and participated in the exhibits, even taught, such as I have. It wouldn't be without Joyce that this would have happened. So I want to honor her for her crowning achievement. The center she served as the founder. The center offers classes year-round in weaving, knitting, spinning, felting, dyeing, related fiber arts, and has hundreds of classes each year, hundreds of students each year. Since the founding of the center, as we call it, our guild membership has doubled, and our annual budget has grown, by my rough estimate, by a factor of 10. So all those people have joined our group, our community, and are familiar with the work of HGA, receive the magazine, maybe go to Convergence, take advantage of things like the scholarships and listen to Textiles and Tea, this kind of thing. So the story continues, the Weaving Center and HGA. And for the Weaving Center and HGA, the weaving legacy is extraordinary. The strong foundation I gained from Joyce's teaching has led me to become a teacher myself. So that includes teaching workshops at Convergence 4 times and counting, I hope. I've had my handwoven garments juried into the Convergence fashion show since 2008. So you see, I'm interweaving my learning from Joyce and my experience with HGA. So in conclusion, my story is similar to the stories of weavers all over the country and the world. HGA is the overarching organization that brings weavers like Joyce and you and me together, offering resources, scholarships, exhibits, and serving as supporting force as we pursue our craft. The magazine, Shuttle, Spindle, and Dye Pot keeps us informed in paper and online. Textiles and Tea keeps us informed also, connected and inspired. Convergence brings us together to learn, to see exhibits of the best weavings from all over, geographically, from all over the world, to reconnect with good friends, and of course, to shop all things fiber. HGA is our home and a key part of our growth as weavers. Thank you, Joyce. And thanks to the Hand Weavers Guild of America. I am beaming with pride.
Denise, thank you so much for that touching tribute.
You're welcome.
That's wonderful. And, I think I met you when I first started with HGA almost 10 years ago, and you've just been so wonderful and supportive of our organization and everything that you do. Thank you for that. And I want to share that Christine Williamson put in the chat. She said, I too have benefited from your learning when I took one of your Convergence classes. And she says, thank you.
Yeah, so it's a big, big community. And how do we bring us all together? And HGA and Convergence in particular is one of the ways we do that. Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for being here today. We appreciate you. And I would like to introduce our next guest now, Jocelyn Warren. Jocelyn is going to talk about items that can be made with fiber arts waste or more. So Jocelyn, if you want to go ahead and start your camera. Oh, there you are. Thanks so much for being with us.
Hi, thanks for having me.
So let's hear what you have to share.
First, let me introduce myself real quick. My name is Jocelyn Warren. I'm the one-man woman show at My Way Acres Farm and Fiber. I'm a stay-at-home mom of 7 kids, and up until recently, we homeschooled. But my kids are getting older and more complicated. So, and I wanted to focus on my fiber arts and my business. So, um, they're mostly at school. So one of the things that drew me into more of the fiber arts, I feel like, knitting, crocheting is kind of like the gateway drug, if you will, into the fiber arts world, and then you kind of get pulled deeper, is being able to make something out of nothing or waste. Um, and I feel like here recently there's been a lot more of an observance of using and not wasting. So that's kind of what my whole thing is. So just a quick little run through of some of the things that I do to repurpose, reuse, not waste things, because wool is such an amazing gift, and sheep in general, any of the fiber animals, there's so much to them more than just yarn. So um, I personally do things like when I'm uh, skirting a fleece, I'll put all of the guard hair, the tangles, the mats, the second cuts, the dirty bits, and I'll put the wool into pots or my garden at this level. And it's really great for keeping the moisture in the soil, and the lanolin and the grime that's on the wool that makes it unusable for you. It's great for the soil health and the plant health. So you end up watering your plants less, and you don't actually have to fertilize because nature's doing that for you. So it's as easy as that. Or I also get waste wool or fleeces that wouldn't typically turn into good yarn, and I turn them into pellets. And these pellets are the same concept, but this is everything in the kitchen sink. The poopy bits, the everything, and then this is more easily spread and dispersed on a larger scale in like a whole garden, and it continues to serve that same purpose that the raw wool does, of feeding and conserving water around your plants in a very natural, bioresponsible way, because obviously the wool will break down. So those are my two favorite things that a lot of people don't think about. It's just, okay, junk, and then we throw it away. A couple other things I do is I'm a dyer. So I do, obviously the colorful acid dyes, but I also do natural dyeing. So I'll do things like I'll dehydrate the kids' orange peels, and I'll dye with kitchen waste. You have to be careful though. There's a lot of misinformation online. Things like beets, black beans, cabbage, they'll give you an initial color, but it's not light fast or permanent. So it's fun to do with kids because they can see the magic immediately. And it's great for things like naturally dyeing Easter eggs, which is seasonally appropriate. So orange peels, pomegranate peels, I'll dehydrate them and save those. And then my all-time favorite dye is actually onion skins. So I'll just get a bag like this, and we'll just, as we are cooking and whatnot, we'll pop it in here. And then when I have a big enough bag, I will pop that in, and you get gorgeous golds. I don't know if you can see this yarn right here. That is a silk yarn dyed with orange peel skins. Another thing I like to do, and I bribe my kids with like movie time to do this. We make plarn. So this is just plastic bags that have been cut into strips. And then I can either ply these strips together for a thicker yarn, or I can use them like this for weaving or knitting. I mean, you could knit, these make really good like market bags, like placemats, or like outdoor rugs or something where you're going to want something a little bit more wear and tear than you would probably want to do with fiber. But everybody's got gobs of plastic bags, and if you don't, I have tons, you can have some. So those are really great, and you can weave them up too, similar like you would like a rag rug, but with the plastic. I also have animals. I raise my own English Angoras because they're like tiny sheep. So they're really easy to keep, and have my own fiber supply right there. So we have lots of feed bags. So I've taken the feed bags and cut out patterns for tote bags or what have you. And I just embroider fun little pictures. And this is, you know, one waiting to be crafted, but they make really great tote bags, mats too. We repurpose these feed bags for all sorts of things. Um, I've used them for drop cloths. I use them, I've stapled them around the rabbit cages to keep them warm in the winter. I've used them as rugs or laid them across my carpet when I knew people were going to be coming in and out, like moving things so that they don't destroy my carpet. And then you can cut the feed bags into strips, um, obviously narrower than this. And then you can again do the rag rug, and those make great outdoor rugs or someplace where there's going to be heavy soil, and you don't or wet. So feed bags are a really great thing to repurpose for what have you. Um, Another thing is like does you know those random tidbits of yarn when you've finished a project or you've plied a couple of things of yarn together and you have these just like random singles. Um, and I don't know about you guys, but I have like this giant basket of things that are just don't have a mate or there isn't enough to do much with. So simple things like a pen loom where you can use up that last little bit of random thread, and then you can take the pen loom pieces and patch them together and make a larger piece, is really great for using up those tidbits. My kids and I made Christmas ornaments this year with some random tidbits, and then we just kind of stuffed them with wool to have these cute little toboggan winter hat things. My kids have also gotten into needle felting. They love the random little tidbits because they can add a speck of color here and a speck of color there. So you can get really great fun kids projects and low investment for them to dabble with. So, you know, and obviously there's the dryer balls. Everybody's got the dryer balls. Actually, have them. So I'll take waste wool and wet felt them into the dryer balls. Uh, you know, obviously I use the cleaner waste wool, and then the dirtier waste wool goes into the either the pellets or the mulch bag. And then here's my little drawer of tidbits. So this is like the stuff that's the last like handful of fluff when you're spinning and you're just toss it, or the stuff that I've picked out of the drum carder after I was finishing a bat or a project. So all of these little bits I either save for needle felting or I will take a, you know, if I get too much, I'll make a big bulk of them and turn them into really colorful dryer balls. And then there's things like, you know, you're spinning and it's just whatever, you're having a bad day and you just decided, okay, I'm going to give up on this, and you just pull it off your bobbin. So stuff like those, you can, sorry, kitty cameo. You can actually like cut them up and recard them and turn them back into spinnable wool. So some examples of that where I've taken either yarn or just some wool that it just wasn't spinning right or I wasn't happy with, and I've repurposed them. What I did, you can either use your cards. I would use a lower TPI. That way you're uh, getting more of a split up. But then I take and I cart those little specks into wool because your wool is going to be your glue. And then you can do as much or as little. Like this one's kind of more of a confetti where there's just a little bit of the repurposed yarn. But then you can go, you know, the brown is the wool, and all of the color on these are repurposed yarn. And it gives a really fun texture, and you're repurposing. So those will be really fun to spin up. And most of these were either acrylic or wool samples, and those are gonna, you know, fluff back out. And if you do it with cotton yarns, you're gonna get a little bit different of a texture. And then I know I'm out of time, so one final thing. So your waist loom or loom waist, sorry. I always take these, and these are the little strips that I'll use when I'm tying my hand spun skeins to wash or to store. So there's lots of ways that you can repurpose. I actually made a guide. I don't know if you guys can do this. If you want to scan this, you can actually go to my website and download a guide that has a lot of the ideas that I mentioned and a couple more that I knew I wouldn't have time to. I'd really like to see everybody repurposing and being as sustainable as possible so we can make the best of our resources. So thank you very much for having me today.
Jocelyn, can you send us that link and we'll make sure to put it in the chat today?
Certainly. Thank
Okay,
you.
there's some comments here, but we are at time, so I do want to give everybody a quick update of where we are with our donations because it is now 1 o'clock Eastern time, and so we want to update you every hour on where we are. So let's take a look.